So, welcome to this last lecture on plant-wide control fundamentals. In fact, this might be the last lecture of the course. In this lecture, we are going to look at the design of a plant-wide control system of a realistic process, and that realistic process is going to be the Q-mean process, a process for manufacturing Q-mean. Okay. Now, Q-mean is manufactured by alkylation of benzene. Friedel-Crafts alkylation of benzene, you must have read it in organic chemistry. Friedel-Crafts alkylation of benzene with propylene over an acid catalyst, and C6 plus C3 gives C9. However, you also get a side reaction in that propylene further adds to C9 to give C12, and so that's the reaction chemistry. Now let's look at the process in view of the reaction chemistry. So you have benzene and C3 feed, and the C3 feed will be largely propylene, say 95% propylene, but some propane impurity in it. Benzene we are assuming is pure. Benzene being very precious, and anyway you got to run the reactor in excess benzene and so you mix it with recycled benzene, and the single pass conversion of propylene in the reactor is nearly complete, so you don't need to recycle C3, so there's no recycle C3 stream. So what you have is fresh benzene, fresh C3 mixing with recycled benzene, and the mixed stream is sent to a preheating section for heating the reactants to the reactor temperature. So you have the fresh feeds, which are liquid, pressurized liquid, vaporized in a vaporizer. Then a feed effluent heat exchanger is there, and what this feed effluent heat exchanger does is it recovers heat. It recovers heat from the hot reactor effluent, which will come later, but the reactor effluent is hot, and because the reactor effluent is hot, it is used to preheat the vaporized feed. This hot preheated feed, reactant feed, is then heated to the reactor temperature in the furnace, and then it is sent into a reactor, the main reactor, which is an alkylator. This is actually a shell and tube heat exchanger with catalyst loaded tubes, and there's coolant running at a high velocity or at a high flow rate in the shell side, so the shell side temperature is nearly constant. So the heat is reaction heat from the hot tubes is removed by the coolant, and the reaction is highly exothermic, so you need to remove heat, and so there will be a hot spot in the reactor. The single pass conversion of propylene, which is the limiting reactant, and why is it the limiting reactant? Maybe we should talk about that also, because this is the reaction chemistry. See, C3 plus C6 gives C9, Q-mean is C9. So C9 is your desired product. However, the C9 further alkylates with C3 to give C12, and C12 is waste. So in order to make sure that the amount of waste that you're producing is small, C3 will have to be limiting. You'll have to run the reactor in excess benzene environment. Okay. So you have the hot reactants undergoing alkylation and further alkylation in the alkylator, and the way the process is designed, single pass conversion of C3 is near complete, and the amount of C12 produced is not very large. Maybe the selectivity or yield to C9 would be of the order of 95%. So 95% of the C3 goes to C9, 5% goes to C12, something like that. Okay, that's the way the process is designed. The reactor effluent is hot with some unreacted propylene. Maybe the single pass conversion of propylene may be of the order of 95, 97, 98%. And this hot reactor effluent is preheating the cold feed. The cooled effluent is then further cooled to condensate. The condensate is collected in a drum, and the liquid is then fed into a light out first distillation train. And in the first column, which is called the purge column, you take out, you see, you've got inert C3 coming in, inert propane coming in. It has to have a way out of the process, so the inert propane gets vented out. Any unreacted propylene also gets vented out. C6, C9 and C12 go down the bottoms. This is sent to the recycle column, and you recover C6 up the top, which is then recycled to the reactor. Uh, C9 and C12 go down the bottoms, and they go to the product column. The C9 being lighter than C12 is recovered up the top, the C12 goes down. And modern cumene plants will also have a transalkylator. What a transalkylator does is there is a different catalyst, and that different catalyst is designed to do the transalkylation reaction, and the transalkylation reaction happens as follows. You have C9 cumene reacting with C6. Oh, sorry, this is wrong, man. Hang on. So maybe I'll correct it right now. This is C12, sorry. C12 reacting with C6 to give 2 molecules of C9. So maybe I should save it. Shift F5, Shift F5. Okay, so okay. So what we have is C12, the undesired diisopropyl benzene. This C12 reacts with C6 to give 2 moles of C9. So in this way, but this is an equilibrium reaction. In this way, we are converting C12 to C9, and so we can have a process that spits out only C9, no C12. So what we have is this reaction and happens in the transalkylator. It's a liquid phase reaction. So the liquid C12 is mixed with, the recycled benzene stream. Part of it is sent here. C12 stream is very small in terms of flow rate, so it's mixed with C6. The C6 C12 mixture is preheated, is heated to the reactor temperature, and the transalkylation reaction happens in the transalkylator. It turns out that the transalkylation reaction is almost athermic, no heat of reaction. So an adiabatic, the transalkylator is essentially adiabatic. It's a tubular reactor, and the transalkylator outlet, hot reactor outlet, is cooled, and after cooling it will contain what? It will have lot of C9, some unreacted C12, and the C6 that you put in. So we need to separate C6, C9 and C12. So the correct location for that is to the recycle column, because it is the recycle column that recovers C6. So C6, C9 and so C6 will go out here, C9 will go out here, and any C12 that is being recycled here actually goes down here. Now a feature of this process that needs to be understood is that, you see, C12 gets generated in the alkylator, and how much gets generated, it depends on the operating conditions in the alkylator, in the excess C6 to C3 ratio in the alkylator. The more the excess ratio, the less the C12 that gets formed. Now this C12 is going out here, then going here. Only part of it gets converted, because the single pass conversion of the transalkylator, it's anyway an equilibrium limited reaction, so the single pass conversion is going to be limited. So only a part of it is going to get converted. That which is not converted, it builds up in this DIPB recycle loop. I'll call this the DIPB recycle loop, this loop. You see, this is so there are two recycle loops here. This is the DIPB recycle loop. And this is the benzene recycle loop. Actually, benzene is going along two loops, this way and that way too. So there is quite a few recycle loops. So benzene is going along two loops, DIPB is going along around one loop. So there's a DIPB recycle loop and there's benzene recycle loops. But the benzene recycle in the DIPB loop is not going to be very large, because DIPB flow rate itself is not going to be very large, because the alkylator is running under sufficient excess C6 to C3 ratio. Okay, but the point is there are two recycle loops, and what happens in the DIPB loop? What happens in the DIPB loop is You allow the DIPB to build sufficiently. As the DIPB keeps building, concentration of this guy will keep increasing. As the concentration of this chap C12 keeps increasing, DIPB keeps increasing, the reaction gets pushed to the right because the reactant concentration is increasing. So there will come eventually a stage where generation because of this reaction is exactly balanced by consumption by the consumption in this reaction, and so then you have zero net C12 generation. So C12 is allowed to build up in the C12 recycle loop to the extent such that its consumption by transalkylation exactly balances its generation by alkylation of C9. Okay, so that's how this process, if you look at the input output structure of this process, what's the input output structure? So you're putting in this, you're putting in C6, you're putting in C3, you're taking out C9, and you're venting C3s, propane, inert propane that enters with the C3 feed, and any unreacted propylene. There is no C12 going out. No C12 is going out because of recycle to extinction of C12. This is called recycle to extinction. So typically chemical processes are designed so that minor side products are recycled to extinction to improve the economics. So basically what we have is everything leaves as either the product or as fuel gas or as vent. This is actually fuel gas which will be burnt in a furnace or wherever, yeah. And this is your useful product. So you've got a input output structure of the process which looks like this. You take C6, you take C3, and you take out C9, and you take out C3s. No C12 leaves the process. The C12 that's generated in the alkylator is recycled to extinction in the transalkylator. So I hope that's clear. And now the idea is we want to design a plant wide control system for this process. So let's get on with it. Before we can design, we need to get a handle on the degrees of freedom. So let's look at the degrees of freedom of the process and then carry on from there. So these are the control valves. They have been put there, and if you count them, I think you'll count 25 valves. So there's 5 per column, so that's 15. After 15 valves, let's count 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So there's 25 control degrees of freedom. That's a reasonably large number. Okay, so let's look at this process with those 25 valves. So control degrees of freedom is 25. How many levels do we need to control? We need to control 4 levels, 2 levels on each of the columns, so that's 6 levels. Then we need to control the level of this flash drum. We also need to control the level of this vaporizer. So that takes away another 2 level controllers, so there's 8 level controllers. Then the 3 columns are going to be running at the given pressure so that you can use temperature differential control. Okay, and the reaction section, which is gas phase or vapor phase, because everything is vaporized and then reacted in the main alkylator. The reaction section is gas phase. The pressure of the reaction section or the reactor pressure, that's another degree of freedom that's not in our hands. Typically it will be decided by the design of the process, and typically you would be running the reactor at the maximum allowed maximum allowed pressure, because maximum pressure will maximize reaction rate, maximum reaction rate will reduce your reactor size as much as possible for a given conversion. Yeah, so in order to have a cheaply designed process, you would always be running at the pressure that the equipment is designed to withstand, the maximum pressure that it can withstand. So the reactor pressure will be the design pressure. Yeah, so that's that. So that takes care of 8 plus 3 plus 1, 12 things are either having no steady state effect or we are not allowed to change because they are fixed. So that's 12 things fixed, 25 control valves, that leaves 13 steady state degrees of freedom, and you can actually count these steady state degrees of freedom pretty easily. 2 for each column, so that's 6. 2 for the fresh feeds, that's 8. 6, 7, 8. 1 degree of freedom for the furnace, 9. 1 degree of freedom for the reactor cooling, 9, 10. Well, this will set the pressure. There's no degree of freedom associated with this. There's no degree of freedom associated with this. So 10. When you split it here, what fraction is sent into the, what fraction of the recycled benzene is sent into the transalkylator? That's 11. This temperature is 12. And this temperature, because of this cooler, is 13. So that's 13 degrees of freedom. Somebody may ask, why do you not have a degree of freedom here or a degree of freedom here? Well, you've got vapor coming in and you're condensing it out here. So this is like condensation on a distillation column. Just like you don't count column pressure as a degree of freedom because it is given. Similarly, by condensing the everything that's coming here over here by adjusting the cooling duty. So this cooling duty is going to get adjusted to hold the reactor pressure, and reactor pressure is given, so this is not counted. Similarly, this duty is going to be adjusted to hold the vaporizer level. If the vaporizer level is rising, you're going to increase the duty or reduce the duty, something like that, right? So this valve is also not counted because it's taken out in the level control of the vaporizer. So these two valves are not counted. Okay, if that's what was confusing you. So it's very simple to count the degrees of freedom. 2 fresh feeds, 1 furnace, 1 reactor temperature. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. This doesn't get counted. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's your 13 degrees of freedom. So now the next question is, what are the steady state specifications that we should be specifying so that all the material and energy balances get closed? And maybe we are also economical, even though we would not be talking about economics here. Just how do you go about synthesizing control structures that will give good regulatory control? Maybe think a little bit about economics. So now let's think about what should these 13 specifications be. So I've noted them down here. Of course, production rate, that's going to be a specification. And like we said, you got to run the main reactor with in excess benzene environment, and so this ratio of excess benzene C6 to C3 or benzene to propylene ratio is required to suppress C12 formation. Throughput, this production rate exhausts the degree of freedom corresponding to one of the fresh feeds. This C6 to C3 ratio exhausts the degree of freedom corresponding to the second feed. Then you will always have the maximum allowed impurity in product, and there are 2 impurities in the product actually. Whatever benzene, this recycle column is recycling benzene, and C9 and C12 are leaving down. So benzene is the light key, some light key will leak down here. So whatever C6 leaks down here, because the product column is separating C9 and C12 and C6 is lighter than C9, any benzene that leaks out here is going to end up here in the distillate. Plus the rectifying section in the product column is not allowing the C12 to go up the top. So there are 2 impurities in C9, the C6 that has leaked down the bottom from the recycle column, and the C12 that is leaking up the rectifying section of the product column. So there's 2 impurities in the product, and what we are saying is, in our specifications, we are specifying the C6 impurity in the product. We are also specifying the C9 impurity in the product. In fact, these specifications will determine the design of the column, how many rectifying trays and how many stripping trays in the recycle column, and so on and so forth. Okay, and this is fixed by the quality requirement that we are guaranteeing the customer. This product cumene is guaranteed to have less than so many 0.1% of C6 and 0.3% of C12. I don't know, something like that. Percent by weight, percent by volume, or percent by moles. I don't know. Usually it is by weight. Okay, so but because in our chemical engineering we typically do mole balances, so I just, without specifying, I will just say, when I say percent, it means mole percent. Okay. So these two product impurity specifications take away another 2 degrees of freedom. So you, the C6 impurity in the product and the C9 impurity in the product. C6 impurity in the product comes from how much benzene C6 is leaking down the recycle column. So this exhausts the recycle degree of freedom. Recycle column, one of the degrees of freedom of the recycle column. Each column has 2 degrees of freedom. So one of the degrees of freedom of the recycle column gets exhausted in ensuring C6 impurity level in the product. Ensuring C9 impurity level in the product, it exhausts the product column, one of the degrees of freedom of the product column. Now if we keep going, product quality ho gaya, we've talked about production rate, product quality, we've talked about the excess ratio, because that determines the, that's a major economic thing. The furnace is going to hold the temperature, inlet temperature into the reactor. The reactor cooling duty is going to hold the reactor temperature itself. So those are the next 2 degrees of freedom. Reactor feed temperature, it is going to be set by the furnace duty, and this exhausts the furnace degree of freedom. Reactor temperature will be set by the reactor cooling duty, and this exhausts the reactor energy balance degree of freedom. Cooling rate. Now let's get to the purge column, because as far as condensation goes, this degree of freedom, the cooling rate, is going to set the pressure of the gas loop or the vapor loop, the reaction vapor loop, main reaction vapor loop. And this degree of freedom is going to be used to hold the level of the flash tank. Yeah, so flash drum. So we don't need to really worry about these two. So next we come to the purge column. If you start coming to the purge column, what are we going to do? Well, the purge column is supposed to not let C3 down the bottoms. So 1 degree of freedom is going to be the level of C3 leaking down the bottoms. What's the other one going to be? See, you want to condense everything that can be condensed, because you don't want benzene to leak out the top. So maximum condensation will happen if the condenser temperature is as low as possible, and if you're using cooling water in the condenser, let's say cooling water is available at 30 degrees Celsius, so a condenser temperature of 50 degrees Celsius, 45-50 degrees Celsius, that is about as low a temperature as you can get, and that is about as low a temperature, and that ensures as low amount of benzene leaks out in this C3 vent as possible. So basically the specification corresponding to the degree of freedom associated with the vent is hold the temperature as low as possible, and that is fixed by the cooling water at 40, 45, 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that's that. So on the purge column, we've got the purge column top temperature about 45-50 degrees Celsius. This is set by the cooling water, and this minimizes the benzene loss in the vent and takes care of the first degree of freedom of the purge column. And the purge column bottom C3 impurity, it will be set to a small value, say 0.1%. This fixes the second degree of freedom of the purge column. Now we come to the next column. If you go to the next column, which is the product column, the recycle column. In the recycle column, C6 has been recycled up the top, C9 and C12 have been taken down the bottoms. C6 leakage down the bottoms is set by the product impurity requirement. So now the other specification is going to be C9 leakage in the recycle stream. And we're going to set the C9 impurity to a small value, 0.1 mole percent. We could have also set it at 1%, but the problem is if C9 leaks up the top, C9 can, and then it will go to the reactor, C9 can further react with C3 to give C12. So the C12 generation rate will go up. So you want to keep it small. These common sense things you can say just by observing the process. So you don't want it to be 1%, maybe you want it to be 0.1%. So recycle column top C9 impurity, This takes care of the second degree of freedom of the recycle column. Then we go to the product column. In the product column, the C9 impurity, the C12 impurity of the top has already been taken away. C9 impurity in the product is already taken away. So that leaves C12. Ay shucks. Okay, so again this is wrong. It should have been C12 impurity, man. Because the heavy key here is C12. Okay. Shift F5. Go back again. Shift F5. Okay, C12. And C9 impurity down the bottoms of the product column is the other specification. This can be set at a small value, 1 mole percent. It need not be 0.1 mole percent. So now that we have taken care of the three columns, the product column bottom C9 impurity takes care of the second degree of freedom of the product column. So all 6 degrees of freedom associated with the columns are now taken care of. Then we are left with the 3 degrees of freedom associated with the transalkylation section. And those are very simple. Transalkylator inlet temperature, this inlet temperature is set by the heater, and this outlet temperature is set by the cooler. Yeah, so those are the 2 degrees of freedom here. Transalkylator inlet temperature, transalkylator effluent cooler outlet temperature, and these take care of the degrees of freedom associated with the preheater and the cooler in the transalkylation section. And then of course there is this control valve. Just like we are saying that the C6 to C3 ratio should be high in the transalkylator, in the alkylator, similarly we want the C6 to C12 ratio. See, C12 is fixed by the transalkylator. Whatever C12 gets formed in the alkylator, that's going to come out here. So C12 is really not in our hands. What is in our hands is C6. How much C6 we are putting here, and we would like to put more C6 here because that will push the reaction equilibrium to the right. Yeah, and so this ratio should be large, maybe 2, 2.5, 3, maybe 4. Plus C12 will be very heavy, so heavy things are difficult to flow. So you want to add some light C6 so that the flowability of the liquid improves. Otherwise you'll have a very gooey mixture. Gooey mixtures flow with difficulty. Yeah. So this degree of freedom would be used to hold typically the C12 or C6 to C12 ratio going into the transalkylation section, and C6 to C12 ratio would typically be large to push the equilibrium to the right, to push the equilibrium conversion to the right. Okay, so that's that. So the last degree of freedom is C6 to C12 ratio. It should be a high value because it shifts the reaction equilibrium to the right in the transalkylator, and this takes care of the C6 recycle splitter degree of freedom, the degree of freedom associated with the recycle splitter. Remember, the C6 recycle is being split into 2. One part goes back into the alkylator, the other part goes to the transalkylator. Yeah, so that split gets fixed by C6 to C12 ratio that you desire. Alright, so now that's that. So basically we're going to have a control system that is going to be controlling these things, these 13 things. The only other comment that I have is the flash drum cooler sets the reactor pressure, and I have explained this earlier. This cooler sets the flash drum pressure, and the flash drum pressure is the gas pressure or the vapor pressure in the transalkylation reaction section. Alkylation reaction section. Yeah. So the pressure here the pressure in the alkylator is going to be pressure in the flash drum plus pressure drop across this cooler, which is going to be negligible. So the pressure here and here are going to be the same. So fixing the flash drum pressure is equivalent to fixing the alkylator pressure, and that pressure gets fixed by adjusting the cooling duty of the cooler. Okay. Now we are ready to design the control system. Now that we have talked about specifications, so let's first design a conventional plant-wide control system with the throughput manipulator at the C3 feed. And you'll say, oh, just 2 lectures ago you told us that never control a fresh feed, and here you are saying that the throughput manipulator is going to be at the C3 fresh feed. While you can do this, A, because C3 is the limiting reactant, B, the C3 is not recycled. There is no C3 recycle loop. Propylene comes in, gets reacted, 95, 97, 98% of it gets converted to C9 and C12. Whatever unreacted C3 plus inert propane that's coming in, that goes out the vent. So the C3 is not getting recycled. Because the C3 is not getting recycled, we can have the throughput manipulator at fresh feed, fresh C3 feed. Okay. Then we say, okay, what about the second feed? Well, C6 is the second feed, this C6. So production is set by C3 feed. What about C6? Well, C6, total C6 is going to be held constant by adjusting the fresh C6. In this way, C6 comes in a makeup fashion. It is not independently set, which it must not be. So that takes care of the second feed, the C6 feed. Then we have the vaporizer level control using vaporizer duty. अरे यार, हाँ हेलो, मैं लेक्चर बना रहा हूँ, बोलो। लेक्चर बना रहा हूँ, अभी कुछ इमरजेंसी है क्या? हाँ चल बाय। अरे यार, we're going to continue anyway. So furnace is going to hold the reactor inlet temperature. The reactor cooling duty is going to be adjusted to hold the reactor temperature, and typically it will be the hot spot temperature in the alkylator. So you'll have an array of thermocouples measuring the temperature down the length of the alkylator. Whichever one is the highest temperature, that temperature will be controlled to a set point by adjusting the cooling duty. Further downstream, you control the pressure of the flash drum by adjusting the cooling duty of the cooler. You control the level of the flash drum by adjusting the flow out into the purge column. And by the way, these are put in green because either they don't have a steady state effect or these are already fixed. You are not allowed to change them. So these green loops are the 12 things that were discounted. 25 minus 12 gave us 13 degrees of freedom, right? So these green loops are those 12, corresponding to those 12 things that were discounted. Now we come to the purge column. Obviously, whatever liquid is accumulating, you're taking out only vapor. So whatever liquid accumulates has to be sent back into the column. So reflux drum level will be under level control using reflux. Bottom level under level control using bottoms. Pressure being controlled by, so if the pressure is increasing, vent more. If the pressure is decreasing, vent less. And the cooling duty of the condenser will be adjusted to hold the condenser temperature at, whatever the cooling water, 40, 45, 50 degrees Celsius, so that the temperature is as low as possible, so that least amount of benzene goes out in the vent. And then to prevent C3 leakage down the bottoms, we are going to control a sensitive stripping tray temperature by adjusting the reboiler duty. So that's that. Then we go to the recycle column. On the recycle column, you have level controls the usual way, pressure control the usual way. We're going to hold the reflux flow in ratio with the feed to the recycle column, and that will basically give some regulation. It will not allow the impurity in the benzene recycle stream to drift a lot. If the flow to the recycle column goes up, the reflux goes up, and so the impurity level in the recycled benzene stream will remain nearly fixed, not exactly fixed. You want exact fixing only for things related to product quality. Recycle streams, things can drift here and there, that's okay, as long as the drift is not too large, and the ratio, reflux in ratio with the feed, ensures that drift is not too large. Plus the feed to reflux ratio also gives some feed forward action, in the sense that if the feed is increasing, you increase the the reflux, so top purity will be well regulated because of the feed forward action. Of course, you control a sensitive stripping tray temperature by adjusting the reboiler duty as usual. Then we go to the product column. On the product column, you have level controls. By the way, this is something that needs to be understood again. See, C12 flow rate is going to be small because you have alkylator which is generating 95% C9, only 5% C12. So if this flow is, 95, this flow may be 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that, no more. So the bottom is only a leak compared to the internal flows in the product column, and therefore how can you control the level of a tank in which a lot of flow is coming in, a lot of flow is going out, only a small amount is leaking. So you need to hold on to this thought, will this level controller work? Well, by itself it won't work, because C12 flow is very small compared to what's coming in and what's going out. So how can you control a flow using a small leak? However, if you put in a temperature controller, you see this temperature controller is going to adjust the reboiler duty so that the tray temperature remains fixed, and this loop is going to be fast, because as soon as the reboiler duty changes, vapor boil up changes, therefore tray temperature changes, because more will boil up across all the trays. Vapor flow will change across all the trays immediately. It doesn't take time for, unlike liquid, vapor doesn't take time to reach from bottom to top, whereas liquid takes time to reach from from top to bottom. Yeah, so this is going to be a fast loop. You'll get tight temperature control, and if you have tight temperature control, then what that means is what's coming down as liquid minus what's going up as vapor, that in minus out variability is going to be of the order of the bottom's flow rate. Now, given that the variability going into the bottom sump because of the action of the temperature controller is of the same order as the bottom's rate, now with the temperature controller in there, bottom's rate can control level. So that is why I have drawn this temperature controller in green, because unless this temperature controller is on, this level control is not going to work. Of course, its set point is in blue, because what temperature set point you give is going to affect the steady state, is going to affect the purity of C12, that's the C12 stream, the bottom stream. Okay, so this temperature controller is drawn in green specifically, deliberately, to emphasize that unless this temperature controller is on, bottom level control is not going to work. Okay, and of course you have reflux in ratio with the feed. And then we go further, we're going to set the flow of the benzene going into the transalkylation loop. Then the heater duty sets the inlet temperature into the transalkylator. The cooler duty sets the temperature of the effluent going into the recycle column. Okay, so that's that. The transalkylator is adiabatic, so you don't need to do any energy balance on the transalkylator. No heat is released, or negligible heat is released. Yeah. Alright, so this is the basic regulatory control system. Now let's start putting in economic considerations. What are the economic considerations? First and foremost, production. Production is set by TPM, okay, throughput manipulator. What about quality, product quality? That's the next big thing. Yeah. The C12 leakage in the product stream is going to be adjusted, or is going to be regulated by a composition controller that adjusts the reflux to feed ratio in the product column. If the C12 leakage is increasing, increase this ratio. Alright, once that is done, what about the C6 leakage in the product stream? Well, that C6 composition in the product stream is going to be held constant by adjusting the recycle column temperature set point. So this is also okay. Then we want, if the C12 goes up, benzene going into the transalkylator section should also go up. Otherwise, what will happen is equilibrium conversion will go down, and if equilibrium conversion goes down, you will have a large amount of C12 that needs to accumulate to recycle to extinction the C12. So what you do is you hold the this is wrong. I am so sorry. This is wrong. I don't have the time to correct it here, but what it should be is, it should be this. You take the flow of the DIPV stream. Okay. So it's not wrong. There's something missing, and I'll tell you what's missing. What's missing is this connection. Okay, yeah, and this guy should not be there. So you take the flow of the DIPV, multiply it by C6 to C12 ratio that you desire, this line should not be there. Okay, so you take this flow, multiply by that ratio that you want, and that ratio sets the benzene flow set point into the transalkylator. So this loop should not be there. Okay, I'm sorry for this mistake, but I hope the video clarifies it. In the PPT I'll correct it before sending it to you. Okay, so that's that. What about this guy? What about this guy? Well, this guy, here too you will say, okay, what is the C6 to C3 ratio that you desire in the transalkylator? Multiply that by the C3 flow. That gives the set point of the total C6 that should be going into the column, not the fresh C6. So you are controlling the total C6, and that set point comes from this ratio station. Okay, and you see, if this is set too low, then too much C12 will get generated. If too much gets C12 gets generated, you will have to recycle much more to recycle the C12 to extinction, and if you are recycling more C12, then the amount of benzene that you have to put will also have to be more. So there is a balance between this set point and that set point, which is going to set how much benzene moves around in the alkylation loop, and however how much benzene moves round and round or recirculates in the transalkylation loop. So there is an optimum there. What is that optimum? An unconstrained optimum. One will have to find that using a simulator, and that is why these magenta loops are pink, because they have economic consequences. This also has economic consequences. This also has economic consequences, but this will typically be held close to the recommended design. You will typically not play with it, so I've kept it blue. It could be that, because when the catalyst is new, C12 rates are low, but as the catalyst degrades, the C12 rates start going high compared to the C9 that gets formed, and or maybe the transalkylator catalyst is degrading, and so its conversion goes down with time, or maybe a combination of both. In that case, it could happen because the amount of C12 that you need to recycle blows up too much. Maybe this valve becomes fully open, so you can't, C12 is accumulating, but you can't make it flow. So then the only option is that you have to reduce the C12 being generated in the alkylator, in which case what you'll have to do is you'll have to put in a loop here. That's a very slow flow controller, and this, or maybe a valve position controller, maybe it should be a VPC. So you'll look at the position of this valve, isko hata do. You look at the position of this valve, and this valve should be 80% open. In order to keep this 80% open, you keep adjusting this set point. This is also possible. So as the transalkylator catalyst degrades, you keep increasing the ratio of C6 to C3 into the alkylator. So you keep reducing the C12 that gets formed, so that even with the degraded transalkylator catalyst, you are able to recycle to extinction the C12. Okay, so all these kinds of things will come, but they are not explained here because that's not part of basic regulatory control. That's part of economic operation. It doesn't really matter. I hope things are clear as to how this thing is running. Okay, so now, because somebody asked a question how the flows are going to change. So imagine you want to increase production. What will happen? If you want to increase production, you'll increase the TPM set point. More propylene goes in, so this level increases, so you start. By the way, as propylene goes up, total benzene goes up in ratio, because this ratio station is always on, so total benzene will go up. So basically total flow here goes up. So if this flow increases 10%, this flow increases 10%, because this flow is also increased 10%. So both flows increasing 10% means this total flow will also increase 10%. If this flow increases, level starts going up. If level starts going up, you will start boiling more in order to maintain the level. As you boil more, the flow here goes up. As the flow here will go up, and also maybe the pressure will start going up. As the pressure starts going up, you start increasing the condensation rate. As the flow here is more, the temperature controller, the temperature will go down, temperature goes down, you crank up the heat to maintain the temperature. As the inlet temperature, because now the concentration of reactants going in is more. Now is it more? I don't know if it's more. It's just the flow that is more. Concentration is the same. Yeah, whatever. So because the inlet condition into the reactor has changed, more reactant is coming in. For the same reaction rate, the hotspot will move down. Hotspot moves down, hotspot temperature will go up a little bit, because I don't know how that will behave, but the bottom line is reactor temperature will increase. As reactor temperature increases, you will increase the cooling duty to maintain the hotspot temperature. Because you are putting in more stuff, if you don't condense it, the pressure of the gas loop will keep going up. So to maintain the pressure, you will increase the cooling, and therefore the cooling will make sure that the pressure remains where it is supposed to remain. As more gets condensed, this level increases. As this level increases, more feed goes into the column. You can keep thinking it through. So you increase here, everything downstream increases. You see, all the loops are dancing together. Okay, that's the way this guy is supposed to work. Now let's look at bottleneck being flooding in the recycle column. ये मैंने डिलीट नहीं किया, डिलीट कर देते हैं इसको. Shift F5. Now in this case, recycle column flooding is the bottleneck. So as we discussed, we will have the throughput manipulator here. Now given that the throughput manipulator is here, you can't be using the reboiler steam to control tray temperature. So what you will do is tray temperature will get controlled this way. If tray temperature is controlled this way, then level can't be controlled of this guy, because that valve is taken out here. Because level can't be controlled using this guy, therefore because level can't be controlled this way, you will say, how do I control this level? This level will have to be controlled this way. There we go. Now that level is being controlled this way, this level cannot be controlled that way. So how will we control this level? Well, we'll control this level by adjusting this guy. And by the way, it seems like a long loop, but it's not a long loop, in the sense that the moment you increase vaporization rate, pressure will increase. Moment pressure increases, this fast pressure controller on the condenser or on the cooler, flash drum cooler, will increase the cooling duty, and if the cooling duty increases, the condensation rate increases, and as the condensation rate increases, the level will start going back up. So this level controller is not a long loop. This will work. Now that the vaporizer level cannot be controlled this way, how do you control the vaporizer level? By feeding in more C3 and C6. How does that happen? That happens this way. And of course, C6 is in ratio, or the total flow, it will typically be in ratio. Everything else is the same. You have recycle column temperature being adjusted by the C9 impurity controller. Reflux to feed ratio on the product column being controlled by the C12 impurity controller. Oh yeah, this is again corrected. It should be this way. Isko hata do. Control Shift 3. Isko hata do. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. It should be this way. Yeah. Yeah, ये सब हटा दो. It should be that way. Okay. And of course, oh, what the hell? Okay, Control Shift 7. Sorry. Control Shift 6, undo. So Control Shift 2, go back. Okay, yeah. And then of course this is in ratio. And by the way, even though this is an economic loop, I think for level control of the vaporizer, this ratio should always be there, because that is what ensures the total flow into the vaporizer goes up. Because let us say C6 to C3 ratio is 4. So this goes up 1, but this flow is 4. So this must also go up, proportionately, and if it doesn't go up proportionately, level won't get controlled. So this one should, of course, it has an economic impact, but it also has a significant regulatory impact. So this ratio controller should also be always on in this case. Okay, so that's your bottleneck. If the recycle column is the bottleneck, now how will this work? So if you crank up the reboiler duty, in order to increase production, so reboiler duty increases, boil up increases, temperature of the tray starts to increase, temperature of the tray increases. In order to bring that temperature back, the temperature controller puts in more cold feed. More cold feed starts coming in, the temperature goes back. But now, because you're taking out more cold feed, cold feed into the recycle column, the purge column bottom level starts to go down. Because this level is going down, the level controller starts putting in more feed. Because and as the level controller starts putting in more feed, and by the way, I have put in a level controller here because this will be a small column, otherwise it would be level control this way and temperature control that way if it was a tall column, but because this is a small column, this will work. Okay, so level controller increases the feed to the column increases, therefore temperature starts decreasing. As temperature starts decreasing, the temperature controller starts cranking up the reboiler duty. Now because the level controller has started opening this valve in order to maintain the level, this level will start going down. As this level starts going down, you start cranking up vaporizer feed. As vaporizer heating duty, as vaporizer heating duty goes up, its level starts to go down. As this level goes down, this level controller starts bringing in more feed, more C3, and the ratio station ensures that C6 is also increased, and so that's that. So you see, you start cranking up this set point, and the level, flow, temperature, pressure controllers are such that everything dances together. It is this dancing together that closes all the material and energy balances, and this dancing together needs to be carefully thought through. That's the point. Okay, so that's that. Now let's say furnace duty. If you're saying, oh, recycle column flooding is the thing that limits maximum production. Let's say furnace duty is the thing that limits maximum production. In that case, TPM will be here. If TPM is here, you cannot use this valve for inlet temperature control. So how do you control inlet temperature into the alkylator? You control it by adjusting the flow here. How do you adjust the flow here? Well, the flow here gets adjusted by boiling off more. So you will have a temperature controller that does this, and this will be a reasonably fast loop. Now given that this is done, how do you control the level of the vaporizer? Same as before. Everything else is the same. You've got the same economic loops, and of course I must emphasize this ratio controller should be on always, otherwise you'll have problems in level control here, because if this flow is too large compared to this flow, this level cannot be controlled by just this guy. You need to add more benzene together with it. Yeah. So, well, that's that. It's as simple as that. And again, how does this work? Well, you increase the firing rate of the furnace. Firing rate of the furnace increases, this temperature starts to go up. This temperature starts to go up, the temperature controller cranks up the vaporizer heating rate. Vaporizer heating rate goes up, this flow goes up, so this increasing temperature gets back. But now because you are heating up more and vaporizing more in the vaporizer, the level of the vaporizer will go down. As the level of the vaporizer goes down, you start bringing in more fresh feed. And as you start bringing in more C3, the ratio control ensures that more C6 also gets sucked in together. So that takes care of that, and everything else is the same as before, so I don't need to repeat that explanation again. So I hope this is clear to you. We continue. You can choose different TPM locations. So so let's say maximum cooling duty is the bottleneck in the alkylator. Let's say your bottleneck is heat removal capacity in the alkylator, exothermic heat removal capacity in the alkylator. What are you going to do then? Where will be the TPM? Design the control system around that. What else would make a good... okay, let's say you're limited by your capacity to recycle C12. as you try to crank up production, too much C12 gets generated, and because too much C12 gets generated, this valve maxes out. So if this valve maxes out, what should be, that is your bottleneck. What should be your plant flight control strategy? I mean, you can choose these kinds of examples and sort of see what needs to be done. Okay. And by the way, I must repeat, and I'm sorry for this. This is like this, and this is not there. Okay, that's a mistake. I'll correct it and send it. So that's that, and I hope you have understood much of what plant wide control structure synthesis is all about. We continue, and the last slide that I have is an exercise, and I'm just going to explain the process to you. It is the hydrodealkylation process. It's a very common process. You do a HDA process. I mean, you'll get tons of literature on Google, so just look it up. But basically what you have is, in the olden days, benzene used to be made by hydrodealkylation of toluene. This process is no longer commercially viable now. New technology has replaced. In fact, they have an alternate route for benzene manufacture. It doesn't come from toluene anymore. But for instructional purposes, this is a classic process. Douglas's book talked a lot about it, Douglas's design book, and so many people have looked at it. So the process is as follows. Look at the reaction chemistry. Toluene is hydrogenated, or toluene plus hydrogen at a very high temperature, dealkylates to give methane and benzene. It's a very high temperature reaction, and at those high temperatures, gas phase reaction at those high temperatures, what happens at those high temperatures? Well, it's a high temperature reaction, but it's exothermic. Yeah, because you're breaking hydrogen bond. Calorific value of hydrogen is pretty high. So it's mildly exothermic. But there is also a side reaction in the sense that at those high temperatures, two molecules of C6 can couple with each other, and diphenyl is actually, this is called diphenyl. C12 is called diphenyl. It's actually like this, two molecules of benzene. This is diphenyl. So it's C12H10, and hydrogen nikal jata hai because carbon bonds to carbon, and so hydrogen goes out. It's an equilibrium reaction, and again, diphenyl is actually a waste product. Because it is a waste product, and it eats up two molecules of benzene, so that is equivalent to wasting two molecules of propylene for every molecule of diphenyl wasted. So from the material efficiency point of view, this reaction should be suppressed as much as possible, and that can only be done by having a very large excess of hydrogen. Because if you have large excess of hydrogen, the equilibrium will get pushed to the left, and so less diphenyl will get formed. So you have toluene, the reactant, recycled toluene, mixing with hydrogen plus recycled hydrogen. All this cold stuff is going in. Reactor is extremely hot, so the hot reactor effluent is used to preheat the cold feed. Preheated feed is heated in a furnace to, I don't know what the temperature is, I don't remember, 620 degrees Celsius or something like that. Pretty high temperatures. In the adiabatic PFR, because there's enough excess hydrogen, so the reaction heat, the excess ratio is anywhere from 5 to 7. 5 moles of hydrogen to 5 moles for every mole of toluene. So because the excess ratio is so high, therefore, even though the reaction is exothermic, you don't need cooling because that excess hydrogen carries a lot of the heat, and so the temperature rise in an adiabatic reactor is not very large, 30, 40, 50 degrees Celsius, no more, 30 degrees Celsius, of that order. So if this is going in at 600, maybe the reactor effluent is 620, 630. Now because things are so hot, reaction can continue. It's important to cool the reactant so that these reactions don't happen. So what you do is, you see what happens is downstream the reactor effluent contains what? It contains benzene, unreacted toluene, some diphenyl, and of course methane and hydrogen. So you're going to condense whatever can be condensed. So C6, C12 and C7 is going to get condensed. That condensate is over here. Of a small fraction of that condensate is put in. It is cold, and so this cold thing quenches this hot reactor effluent, and because this is quenched, now the temperature of the quenched stream is small enough, low enough that these reactions don't take place. So maybe the quenched stream temperature may be 550 degrees Celsius or 600 degrees Celsius, something like that. Okay, so no reactions happen in the quenched stream. This quenched stream preheats the cold feed, cools itself, and then it is further cooled, and it will be cooled to, I don't know, maybe 40 degrees Celsius, because you would like to condense everything. Whatever can be condensed should be condensed. So you condense everything. And however, hydrogen can't be condensed, methane can't be condensed, so you will have gas leaving here. Whatever can't be condensed will leave out. And by the way, the reaction chemistry is such that methane is getting formed. So methane will have to have a way out. So this is the way out for the methane. Of course, some hydrogen will also leak, but nevertheless you compress, because there is pressure drop as things flow through the FEHE furnace, PFR, cooler, and into the flash drum. There is pressure drop. So this pressure drop needs to be overcome to recycle hydrogen. If you don't recycle hydrogen, what will happen is, to maintain 5:1 excess ratio, so that too much C12 doesn't get formed, the amount of fresh hydrogen that you need will become too much. To minimize the fresh hydrogen that you use, you have this gas recycle loop. So that reduces the amount of hydrogen that you need to buy. And in refineries, hydrogen is precious. Everybody needs hydrogen. Hydrogen is always in short supply. Okay. So that's the gas recycle loop, and there is a purge which allows a way out for the methane that gets formed in the reaction. Some hydrogen, of course, also leaks out. The liquid part of it, of course, goes for quenching the hot reactor effluent, but most of it, maybe 95% of it, goes to a light out first distillation train, which is very similar to what we had in the Cumin process. So in the first column, you are taking out, venting out hydrogen, dissolved hydrogen and methane. You see, because this is under pressure. Because it is under pressure, hydrogen and methane will be dissolved in the liquid, and now when you take it to a low pressure column, pressure will not be too low. It will be lower than the reaction section, but it will not be too low. So maybe if the reaction section pressure is 20, 25, 30, 40 bars, this pressure may be 10 bars of the column. And you want the column to be at high pressure, because if you have it at too low a pressure, C6 will start leaking out with the methane. So to keep the leakage of C6 small, you need the stabilizer column to be at some pressure. It needs to be pressurized, maybe 5 bars, maybe 6 bars, maybe 10 bars. It cannot be at 1 bar, because then a lot of the methane will leak out with the lot of the benzene will leak out with the methane. Okay, so you send the stabilizer feed into the, you send the flash drum condensate into the stabilizer column. The stabilizer column is like the purge column in the Cumin process. It purges out the methane and the hydrogen that is dissolved in the liquid feed, and the bottoms is hydrogen and methane free, so it's essentially C6, C7 and C12. It goes to the product column. In the product column, you take out benzene at the top, which is because benzene is light. Toluene and C12 go down the bottom. Then you go to the recycle column. C7 being lighter goes up the top, C12 is recovered down the bottom, C7 is recycled, and that's your process right there. So what you should do is, count the degrees of freedom, control degrees of freedom, put in independent valves, and then discount the valves that you're not free to, the degrees of freedom that you're not free to adjust, and levels, etc., that have no steady state effect. Get the steady state degrees of freedom, and once you have the steady state degrees of freedom, start thinking about what would be good process variables to specify to exhaust those degrees of freedom, and from that you will start getting a reasonable plant-wide control structure. You control those variables and you'll get a reasonable plant-wide control structure. So at the very least, you should be able to devise a plant-wide control structure with total toluene as the TPM. Let's say furnace as the bottleneck, furnace duty as the bottleneck, and maybe कंजूसी कहाँ करी होगी, maybe recycle column floods. Maybe yeah. So that's a good idea. So recycle column flooding as the bottleneck. So devise these three control structures. I am not going to discuss the solution. It should be obvious, very similar to the queuing process. The only thing that I want to point out is there is a degree of freedom associated with the compressor. Compressor duty. But you will keep the compressor duty always maxed. Why would you keep it maxed? Because that maximizes the recycle, and maximizing the recycle minimizes the fresh hydrogen that you need to buy in order to maintain 5:1 or 7:1 ratio of toluene, of hydrogen is to toluene going into the reactor. The other thing that I want to point out, which is that the purge is there to let the methane out. So how is the purge stream going to get manipulated? Purge stream is going to get manipulated to hold the methane concentration in the gas recycle loop. So there will be a concentration controller that adjusts the purge. That's about it. Everything else is the same as before. Okay. So that completes our course. I don't know if it was useful or not, but I have worked like crazy to make those animated diagrams. It takes a lot of effort, and I wanted to make animated diagram for this also, but I just lost my patience. अब ना हो पाएगा भाई जी, बहुत हो गया. ठीक है, तो अब आप लोग ये खुद करिए, and maybe I'll get back in touch with you after a week. Maybe we can do an interaction session where you would have had the time to go over everything, and whatever doubts are there, to the best of my ability I can address, and I guess that will be that. So thank you so much. Goodbye, namaste, salam, keep safe. आप सभी को हमारा हार्दिक अभिनंदन. भाड़ में जाए दुनिया, हम बजाए हारमोनिया. That's a saying here in Eastern UP. भाड़ में जाए दुनिया, हम बजाए हारमोनिया. I think we need to do, all of us need to do that, because दुनिया तो भाड़ में जा ही रही है. इसको बंद कैसे करें यार? There we go. So I'm going to stop it. Again, this was a long lecture, but I think those explanations were necessary. 1 hour, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. So thank you. Goodbye. Namaste.